Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakal Kadesh, Barakatham. Double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of great mystery of the world, Spirit of Nasher, DC Camp, short lesson for the hopeful elect. And the population of our people that have to deal with the bearing of children. We have to face the challenges of a system that is no longer interested in population growth. Okay, they're not interested in the quality of maternity services, maternity care. All right, that's one of the reasons you hear about cuts in Medicaid. You hear about the insurance companies not willing to cover certain procedure when it comes to women's health. Okay, so they're always going to punt in the direction of saving a buck, denying services, denying claims, denying coverage. All right, so our people have to prepare for that. It's just the sign of the times, man. Babylon was never really a place for our people to be fruitful and multiply with happiness and joy in their hearts. But all we've received is just sadness and misery. You can see the population of our people that are stuck in jailhouses, detention centers, mental health facilities, and on the streets, dealing with mental health deficiencies, financial discrepancies in their daily plight. All right. So I was just checking out the news some days ago, and then you come across, the reduction of staff in hospitals when it pertains to maternity. And our people, the women of our nation, they have children. They're fruitful, they're fertile. Both the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And then you realize that it's all deliberate. Because these hospitals are run by private firms, man. It's not really run to put the quality of care for the people at a pinnacle of success. They're just in there to use the people as what you call as revenue streams. That's what you're going to learn when you work in a hospital setting. Because when they see people come in the door, their job is to make sure they maximize their profits. That's why healthcare industry is a multi-billion-dollar business, man. It's like a multi-trillion-dollar business. So that's the reason why the pharmaceutical industry keeps on reinventing the wheel. They block certain medications from coming to the market, certain remedies from coming to the market. You have all these high-powered law firms that attack people for creating better options. They silence people's proposals to make improvements that that can be revolutionary. And then you realize that at the end of the day, man, it's all for profit. And now they're using all this AI technology to deny claims of the people. That's how you you learn. That's how you learn about Esau's system, man. It's not really geared towards people being productive. It's about keeping people under the thumb of their control. When you have AI, the use of AI algorithms to deny people's coverage, people's requests, you see there's a pattern, and you hear about the so-called Luigi situation, and these politicians they facilitate the denials. It's like a orchestrated plan to make the denials feasible. Okay, so that's why it's important. You have to understand how the system works, despite all the taxes coming out of your wages. You know, every so-called 2 weeks, your money goes into the system. But then, what does your family member get? What does your neighbor get in return? Even the daughters of the the population of oppressors, talking about these Edomites, what do they get in return? Nothing. Because now they're beginning to see the light that the system is not really geared towards the success of their generation. They're feeling the pinch too. The so-called public school system is becoming a cash grab. You know, it's becoming a cash grab. Wherever the public coffers is available, it's a cash grab for these corporations. So that's why it's important. We have to understand, the chaos, the opposition we're up against, and you just gotta be prayerful, man, that you don't lose your cool and you snap under pressure, because understand, brothers, man of the Lord, you love your wives, you love your children, but then you realize, man, there's so much rigged against them, in the system, whether it's the food, whether it's the medication, whether it's the policies put in place in these corporate entities. So you get sleepless nights, you get cold sweats, and then you just have to, defer to the Lord, Hamashiach Yahushua, Yahweh Bashim Kakadash, to give them the courage and patience and faith to go through the system, man. Because when the brother, tells, the presbytery, the elders of the church, brothers in the camps, about the wife going into labor, pregnancy, and the whole 9 yard, we understand what it is, man. It's a tough system to navigate through, man, especially when you have the fox guarding the hen house. So you gotta be extremely prayerful. You gotta be spiritual. You're gonna have to understand how to conduct yourself in tight spaces. So if you read, when you read from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, from verses 1 to verse 3, it kind of prepares you, man, for the sadness, the heartbreak, the chaos of a society that we have to live with. So Jeremiah 16:1 says, "The word of the Lord Yahweh Shema Kakadash came also unto me, saying, Thou shalt not take thee a wife, neither shalt thou have sons or daughters in this place." Okay, so this is the prophet Jeremiah. Then what does it say? That it's not going to be beneficial for him to have a wife, sons and daughters, basically have a family. Verse 3 says, "For thus said the Lord Yahweh concerning the sons and concerning the daughters that are born in this place, concerning their mothers that bare them, and concerning their fathers that begat them in this land. They shall die of grievous deaths, they shall not be lamented, neither shall they be buried, but they shall be as dung upon the face of the earth. Even our people, even though they are alive and walking, they still counted as dung. All right. So that's a preparation for the calamity that's about to face our people, man. The Lord has already made it clear that a lot of our people are going to have to fall by the sword, the famine, and teeth of wild beasts. But they shall be dung upon the face of the earth, and they shall be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth. Yeah. So that's one thing we have to realize, man, that the chaos of the Lord, is about to be unleashed upon the face of the earth. So that vibration of having a family, is not as attractive as it once was. So now you're going to have to see the signs in the system, the so-called healthcare system of Esau. When you see all these nursing staff being let go, reduction in staff, reassignments, and all that stuff, it's just a lot letting us know, man, that healthcare is no longer a priority. That there's the valley of the shadow of death, and that you have to realize that the earlier the better. Okay, so I'll play this clip and then get some more precepts.
Well, the biggest hospital in our region says it's closing an entire postpartum unit, and nurses are sounding the alarm that it could put patients in danger. The nurses union at MedStar Washington Hospital Center says management told them that they plan to close one of two postpartum units by July 22nd, which means eliminating 11 of 28 beds and cutting 8 nurses. The nurses union says management cited, quote, not enough patients as the reason for the closure. But one nurse that we spoke with says the postpartum unit is often full, and she worries downsizing could jam up the entire system. She says with fewer beds in postpartum, then that means that patients who've already given birth would get stuck in the labor and delivery unit longer, and then
Yep. So what's going on? I say, well, they're not getting enough women having children in there. Why? Because you have this issue of abortion. Okay, abortion is becoming a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, so these pills that these women take is also going to affect the business of these hospitals that expect pregnant women to come in the doors. So who's really making the money? The pharmaceutical industries that are selling the drugs. And then they have the so-called the OBGYN that have to perform the abortion, and all that stuff. So it's basically a shift in capital. But at the end of the day, the money is going where it needs to go. So you understand that the hospitals can no longer see an uptick in women having more children in their wards anymore. Why? Because the so-called Plan B pill, the Plan B medication, is gaining traction, man. When the economy is not mathing, and these women don't want to deal with another mouth to feed, the man is basically looking for hours on the job and all that stuff. What do you think is going to happen? The abortion pill is going to be their first option, man. What you call contraceptives and all that stuff. So that's the whole agenda. You know, brothers will be talking about the pull-out game. Women will be talking about the pull-out game and all that stuff. So it's just things you have to remember, man. When a society is about to fall off the ledge, man. These are the type of events that you see. It's just what you say, the canary in the coal mine. Yeah. So when you have these maternity words, begin to feel the pressure to shut down postpartum that deals with afterbirth. Where the mom has to go for recovery and all that stuff. So, what do you think? Is happening as the lady there? They get him billed. you know. So when these so-called medical facilities get in between the so-called midwives and the women, this is what happens. They're gonna have to assume the responsibility of care. So now all these doulas have to do the the needful. Now they have to do this at-home births. You know, or find a so-called local facility where they could have the water bath and all that stuff, water birth. Yeah, to provide a better opportunity, let's say better experience of birth. And the complications arise, man. That's when you have all these cesarean section. That's why the hospital comes in. But for the most part, these midwives, these doulas, they do a great job, you know, taking care of these women that in the different trimesters of their pregnancies. So it's important to know that the psychological balance of a woman, after childbirth is very, very important, man. That's when the family needs to be more involved, so it's necessary, to understand the type of blues they're going to be dealing with, man. That's why prayer is important, you know, in this day and age, man, of people, with family, man. You have to have, the Spirit of the Lord upon your household to deal with these setbacks in the healthcare industry. All right. So it says okay. So MedStar plans to close one of two units by July 26th. Okay. So that's next month, eliminating 11 of 27 beds. So what are they going to be doing? So that means once the woman gives birth, what's the use of transferring her to the postpartum ward? You're going to have to send them home. You're going to have to send them home and all that stuff. So that's another situation to consider. Cutting 8 nurses. Yeah, so you can imagine the workload of this nursing staff. All right, and you have to be prepared, man. You have to be prepared for whatever is sudden as per maternity, man. That's why brothers study. They do research. They go for classes. Because when I used to work in a hospital, I see men and their wives come in for Lamaze classes when it comes to maternity, childbirth, nutrition, care, exercises, and all that stuff, dealing with stress, depression, and all that. You feel the sense of responsibility that folks want to do the right thing. But when the system begins to shift, it feels like an earthquake between the feet of the people. So what happens, man? Now they have to start looking for other options, and with other options comes risks. You know, People could fall through the crack. You don't have no midwife or doula with all this sophisticated equipment, for ultrasound and medical tests and all that stuff. You need to have a skilled nurse, skilled physician to do all that, and that's extra costs. So that has to be billed or it has to come out of pocket. So if the insurance company doesn't want to take care of it, that's it. They might tell you, okay, well, the doctor's out of network. Yeah, that's the bitter part. Salakia for chuckling, but that's just the irony of being in a system like this, man. That's why the script talks about Esau's system, that he is as death and cannot be satisfied. Okay, so I'll get a quick precept. Isaiah 10 and 22. For though thy people Israel shall be as the sound of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. the consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. So we have to deal with the Most High putting that spirit of demise on Babylon. When the system of Babylon's feeling that demise, the pressure from the Lord, that idea of maternity doesn't look as prospering as that anymore, man. Because now they've shifted their focus. The elites that own all these corporations have shifted their focus to other things. Now they have to pull the mask off and go for the depopulation agenda. So when you understand that mortality rate for the women of our nation is really really high when they don't receive the proper care. It's one of those things that's written, extensively in peer-reviewed research. All right.
Patients in labor might not be able to get a bed there.
It puts them in an unsafe position. It puts us in an unsafe position because if you're already laboring and we don't have any rooms, are they going to deliver in the hallway? Or are we going to have to move someone else to get them a spot?
As some maternal health experts here in D.C. say that they're worried this could disproportionately impact people of color. If you look at the maternal mortality rate in the district, Black women make up 31% of births, but 84% of deaths. One nonprofit that offers support services for Black women giving birth says that they're worried about what the cutting.
Yep. You see, that's what you call a death sentence right there, man. A death sentence. That's why it's necessary. People, depend upon the Lord. About Shema Shai, about Shema Kakadash, man, because the spirit of multiplying, being fruitful and multiplying, in Babylon, it's not holding its weight. The Most High has taken that vibration of Babylon. Now we're getting closer to the season of demise, the season of death, the season of elimination, the season of scarcity, the season of famine, the season of mourning. All right. So a lot of people are going to be heartbroken. They're going to be sad and upset that they're going to have to lose their loved one. Either the wife doesn't make it during childbirth, the child doesn't make it at childbirth. So it's just the pain of the journey. So another precept would be from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1 and 5. Let's start with verse 4. Jeremiah 1 and 4. Then the word of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai Shema Kakadash came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou came forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. So, what really is this about? That the birth of the prophets is basically what the Most High really is really concerned about, man. That's what it is. When the Lord has already brought forth the prophet out of the womb, that's it. That's all that matters. That's the Lord's priority. That's the Most High's focus. So you can imagine everything else that happens around that is just another layer, which is not really that important to the Lord, because as long as the prophets make it true, that's it. That's what the Lord really is concerned about, man. The prophets have to be born, okay? When the prophets are born and they get their calling, they make their election sure, that's it. Everybody else, man, they're just basically on the sidelines, okay? So the Most High is not really focused on the sidelines, as much as the prophets. So whatever happens on the sidelines, that's just what you have to say. The Lord did this, the Lord did that, but the prophets have to bear the message. People on the sidelines are not the ones They're not the ones bearing the word of the Lord. They're not the ones on the highways and byways. All right. So if there's a loss of those people, you know, does it really stop the message? Does it really strike fear in the hearts of the elite or the hearts of the prophets? No, you're right, because the prophets have a different mindset, man. They are not concerned as the people on the sidelines are concerned. So that's the, this what you call, being, word that says being cold hearted. Hey, at some point in time, man, being a prophet of the Lord requires you to be numb, to the worries of these people, man. Because the word of the Lord is a spirit of its own, man. It doesn't move the way the people of the world wants it to move, the way the people on the sidelines want it to move. People worried about their paychecks, about their rents, about their taxes and income. The Spirit of the Lord doesn't move with that type of vibration and concerns, okay? So that's why it's necessary that the prophets of the Lord are a priority. That's why the Lord refers to them as first fruits, okay? The first fruits, okay? So it's necessary that He gives the first fruits the preeminence, the priority, okay? So when you also look at Jeremiah chapter 20, 14 to 18, it shows you how sad Jeremiah was when he couldn't handle the demise of his people. All right, Jeremiah 20 and 14 says, "Cursed be the day when I was born. Let not the day wherein my mother bare me be blessed." That's a sign of depression, for a prophet. Then verse 15 says, "Cursed be the man who brought tidings to my father, saying, A man child is born unto thee, making him very glad." And then verse 16 says, and let that man be as the cities which the Lord overthrew and repented not, and let him hear the cry in the morning, and the shouting at noontide, because he slew me not from the womb, or that my mother might have been my grave, and her womb to be always great with me. Wherefore came I forth out of the womb to see labor and sorrow, that my days should be consumed with shame. Yeah, so when folks start having all these dark thoughts, man, this is what happens. This is the type of reflection, the type of meditation that you see. You see the signs of demise in the prophet Jeremiah. The Lord, the Lord made it possible for him to be born, and here he is, talking about his pain and suffering and struggles. But end of the day, man, it's the plan of the Lord that really, really counts. So when you read from the book of Sirach, chapter 23, it gives you a better insight why the Most High made it possible for the prophets to be born. Sirach chapter 23 and 14, "Remember thy father and thy mother when thou sittest among great men. Be not forgetful before them, and so thou by thy custom become a fool, and wish that thou hast not been born, and curse the day of thy nativity." All right. So you have to understand, man, the Most High, made the elect come forth for a specific reason. You have to get a job done at a certain time frame, and whatever way the Lord decides for us to be moved out of the race, that's it. As long as you complete the race, that's it. That's all that counts. You gotta finish your race. Finish your obligation. So you have to take that to heart, man. Don't take it personal when it comes to this ministry. You have to learn to accept things from the way the Lord has led it to happen. You know, you have a purpose, so you have to let that purpose, be fulfilled. It's prophecy. You cannot stand in the way of prophecy. When the Lord has called you for a purpose, the purpose cannot be hindered. Okay, that's why the Lord talks about His word shall go forth and accomplish that which it shall accomplish. That's where the prophet comes in. Okay, so don't ignore that. So we look at the book of Luke. This is what the Lord Hamashaki Abishai told our people, to prepare for in those dark times. Luke chapter 23, from 27 to 31. And there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jehoshaphat, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Okay? Then it says, For behold, the days are coming, in the which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never gave bear, and the paps which never gave suck. So, in these last days, man, in times of Jacob's trouble, women that never had children, they're going to have less of concern, of dependence, of defenseless loved ones. It's going to be a different mindset, because going through a harrowing environment, harrowing event with children is very devastating. Even when you watch a National Geographic, when you see an animal lose their child and they start crying and wailing and all that stuff, so you can imagine when you see children, losing their lives and the parents feel helpless. You see it on TV, how children get blown to pieces during the times of war and all that stuff. So it just makes you understand that the pain of losing a child is very, very heartbreaking. It's very, very devastating. Okay, so it says, verse 29, For behold, the days are coming in the which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never gave bear, and the paps which never gave suck. Right? Because they're going to be in a tight spot, to survive. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things in the green tree, what shall be done in the dry? So when times are good, and they don't have any courage to deal with these little difficulties, what do you think they're going to be able to deal with when there's nothing? When the economy is fruitful, they cannot even deal with being organized. So what are they going to do when there's nothing for them to organize? When there's a scarcity, when there's a scarcity of resources, when there's an abundance, it's a different situation. So that's why it's important, man. Because when women, don't have children, man, they feel so sad and upset. They feel depressed and all that stuff, man. Just like our forefather Jacob. You have his wives telling him, give me children, give me babies, and all that stuff. Yeah, so you can imagine. Yeah, you can imagine. Women just lose their sense of purpose when they don't have children. So you can imagine when there's scarcity. When times are good and women don't have that fertile aspect of their life there, they feel like an empty shell. They feel miserable. So that's just one thing to always consider. And then final precept would be from the book of Second Ezra, chapter 16, 33 and 34. It's going to be rough, for women in those days, man. Those with children and those without children, man. Why? Because their support system is no longer going to be standing. It's no longer going to be feasible. Second Ezra 16 and 33, the virgins shall mourn having no bridegrooms, the women shall mourn having no husbands. So, and then it says their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. So it's going to be painful for women in those days, man. The days of darkness, the days of chaos, the days of the third war, when you have men being drafted and sent to the what you call the war front, the front lines. So it's going to be horrible, and a lot of these women, they're going to have to deal with the little ones, the children, and all that stuff. So it's going to be heartbreaking, very, very dark times for them. Verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. So it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. There's no hospital in that time that's going to be able to deal with the influx of people coming in for maternity care, man. Everybody else, they're going to be on their own. So it's going to be rough. So that was the point of this lesson. You're going to have to deal with the Most High, withdrawing that spirit of maternity, that spirit of childbirth from off the face of the earth. The desire to have children. Why? Because it's going to be a time of war. The people are not going to be willing to take that risk of having mouths to feed when they see the chaos. So just be aware, man. The tides are shifting, and we just gotta pay more attention, man, because when the hospital system, the healthcare industry, is making certain moves, we have to pay attention. Shalom.